wanna get close to you. Tell me you want me to.
Hello and welcome to chatshow.net. Today our studio guest has one of the finest voices in the music industry. He was the voice of that very successful group, Wet Wet Wet, but now he's back in the spotlight as a solo artist with a terrific solo album entitled Smile, which has put him straight back into the top 10. So Marti Pellow has plenty to smile about. Welcome to Chat Show, Marti.
Hi.
And what's it like being a solo star?
Well, you know, at first it was very surreal, you know, to find myself, you know, dare I say, on stage without being in a band, you know, because I was very used to the camaraderie of being in, you know, having the four guys travelling around the world together. You know, because I was in Wet 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 for 20 years, and at first it was really quite bizarre, but I knew that I had such good songs that they would never let me fall. So once you get on and you sing a few chords and away you go, you just take care of business.
Did it take very long getting the album together? Because you are a composer and producer and vocalist on this album, which is quite a feat.
Oh, it's been fantastic for me, because one of the reasons that I left Wet 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 was so that I could push the envelope out of myself as an artist and be more involved in the production and arrangements of the songs. And it took the better part of a year and a half to make the album. But in between that year and a half, you know, I did spend time with family and loved ones, because I think it's important for me to have balance in my life.
You actually have a major hit with one of the songs already, Close to You, which I think is a beautiful song from the album.
Thank you very much.
Was that dedicated to anyone in particular? Was there someone in mind for that? Or what was the reason for that song?
Well, that was the last song I wrote for the album, Smile, and it was one of these songs that I just had the chorus and I could never get a verse to complement it. And I kept on putting it to bed and bringing it back out again, and eventually I got the song finished and I played it to the lyricist on the album, Chris Difford, and he came up with a wonderful lyric. Now, at face value, it might look like a love song, but it's really about me being able to sit with myself. It's about being, without getting too happy, it's about just being able to be at peace with oneself.
Because you've been through quite a lot.
It's fair to say I've had my fair share.
We'll talk about that later.
Right.
But I understand you were originally going to call the album Moonlight Over Memphis.
Moonlight Over Memphis, yeah, because I went back to Memphis, Tennessee, and I recorded an album with an old friend of mine, Willie Mitchell, and I'd finished that album there, and we put it together, and it wasn't really what I wanted to be the first album for Marti Pellow as a solo artist. So that's why it was going to be. There is an album that I completed in Memphis called Moonlight Over Memphis, which hopefully will see the light of day sometime in the near future.
So what made you decide to call it Smile?
I think it was, you know, I was always remembered the Beach Boys album that never was, and that was supposed to be called Smile, and I just thought it was a very positive title, and you know, it's simple, one word title, straight to the point, and I think it complements the eclectic and very positive mix of songs that are on the album.
Fun enough, you're quite well known for your smile though, aren't you?
It's so ironic that I choose to have an album called Smile. Yeah, absolutely.
What about all those impersonations on Stars in Your Eyes of Marti Pellow? They always come on with the twinkle in the eye and a smile.
That's it.
How do you react to that?
Well, you know what? I was lucky enough to meet some of these guys who do impersonations of me, and some of them are quite good. It's quite funny. But when the first guy won Stars in Their Eyes, me and my father won a large sum of money in the bookmakers by booking. So I put some money on myself and I won some money off the bookies.
Really?
It was a safe bet, man.
Oh, how funny. But Marti Pellow would win, and he did.
Yeah, I had to send my father, and I wasn't going to get in and place the bet. I'll vote for Marti Pellow.
Well done, well done. No, you wanted to work with Chris Difford of Squeeze.
Yeah,
was that because you'd worked with him with Wet 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 on that album?
Yeah, on the pitch of this album, Chris came and did some lyrics for me, and Wet Wet Wet. And I remember when I embarked on my solo career, it was important that I had a lyricist, because I can pander to my strengths. My strengths lie in the melodies and the arrangements of the songs and the production to a certain degree. And I wanted to have a lyricist, if you like a Burt Bacharach and Hal David set up, or Bernie Taupin and Elton John. You know, I was so inspired by that combination that I think whatever the song needs, the song has to have. And Chris Difford is a wonderful lyricist, and you know, first and foremost, he's my friend, but he's a great lyricist and brought a lot to the table for my songs.
Well, they were superb lyrics, as they are with the songs. You know, you obviously have a great working team there.
Well, that's
bonding.
It. That's it. You know, he knows what makes me click and vice versa. Very special.
I remember we first met in LA when you were on the Elton John tour.
That's right.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, many moons ago.
Yeah, with Wet Wet Wet, of course.
Yeah.
What made you, because you were very successful, what made you want to drop out?
I think the circle of life had came to an end for the band when Tommy, the drummer, had left the band, because we weren't just four musicians who came together, we'd all grown up together. There was a lot more going on than just music. And I think when Tommy left, the whole infrastructure of the band changed, the whole dynamics. Everybody's wants and needs from the band became completely different. And I think after that happened, it was time to call it a day for me. It took me the better part of a year to play that card, but I did, and I moved on. But you know what? I'm still in contact with the rest of the guys, because just because we don't make music together doesn't mean we can't break bread.
Oh, that's nice.
That's good, very positive.
Yeah. Another of your songs, I've Been Around the World.
Aye.
Now, is that about touring, or is it about what went on in your mind? Is that to do with the problems you had?
Yeah,
and, and I'm back.
Yeah, it does kind of tip its hat to that. And that was the only lyric that I wrote on the album. You know, because Chris had did, or he penned all the lyrics for the rest of the album, and I wrote did the lyrics for that song, Been Around the World, because the fax machine was broke that day. And I was in Memphis, and I said, well, you know what, I'm going to have to put pen to paper here. And the lyrics are very simple lyric, but sometimes they can be the best. And I think it is quite a dark song, but it has a positive ending.
Well, yes, it's optimistic, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, and that's the way where I'm coming from.
Yes.
Wanna get close to you. Tell me you want me to.
Well, it's been well documented that you went down a very dark road,
Oh, yeah.
Sadly, of alcohol and then drugs. What actually happened? I mean, how do you think that happened to you?
Well, I think it was, you know, having the beauty of hindsight now, you know, the gift of hindsight, I think it was an amalgamation of things. You know, first making my dreams become reality, and, you know, wishing for success and then getting it and it being not what I thought it would be, and the whole dynamics of that. And as opposed to communicating, what I would do is I did a lot of self-medicating, you know, and became somewhat of a little island, you know, and I think it was done, it said no man should be an island. And so for me, as opposed to talking and communicating, I sought solace in drugs and drink, which was a very dark time in my life. And it was a very humbling experience to find myself coming out of that. But, you know, through knowledge and education about my disease, because it is a disease, then I could embrace my sobriety and move on.
How did you get out of it? I mean, it's quite a feat that you actually managed to escape, because many artists have died, haven't they?
Absolutely. You know, I was lucky enough to get a little crack of reality one day, and, you know, it became abundantly clear to me that I was having a problem when there was never a day go by where I wasn't having a drink or a drug. And I think that's no place to be for any man, or, you know, or anybody in that fact. And when I had a little, you know, blast of reality, I embraced it and moved on. You know, and it's just said enough's enough. And sometimes some people might have to find themselves in that situation, in the bones of the bum, to say, well, you know, enough's enough. It was the worst thing that happened to me, and in a strange way, it was the best thing, because through that madness, it's amazing how the real players in your life come to the forefront. You know, you sort of see, it's very humbling, you're kind of almost naked, but through that, your real players come in to your life and who help you. And so, I mean, yeah, it was a dark time, but 2 years into my sobriety, I have good days and bad days like everybody else, but I choose not to drink and drug in these days.
You're all right now.
I'm all right now.
You're fantastic.
Absolutely.
But I did read that you refer to heroin as actually becoming your lover for a time.
Well, that's what it is. It's like a real, it's the ultimate painkiller, and it's like having a tango and letting the dance go on for a long time. And it is, everything else becomes secondary, you know, because that's the paramount. Your drug of choice is what's paramount in your life, and that's what's frightening about the power of it. And, you know, everything else becomes irrelevant, and you become a slave to your drug of choice. And only through knowledge can you combat that.
How did it affect your work?
Well,
did you just stay in bed?
Yeah, I became very insular, you know, and did a lot of isolating, and I love breaking bread with people. So for me, it was a horrendous time, you know, just to be very insular and just sitting with your heroin and wishing your life away.
Well, did you ever think perhaps you might have died from it?
Well,
was
you know,
there a danger of that happening?
Believe you me, you know, I was lucky enough to get help and saw it for what it is at a time in my life. Who knows, you know, where that story could have ended, because there's been many a man and many a woman who haven't seen the light.
Yeah, young people, young fans of pop stars, rock stars, they're very influenced by by their idols.
Yeah.
What would you, having experienced that, what would you say to young people who
Well,
might be tempted to dabble, having read articles?
Yeah, I mean, it's great if, one person can listen to I'm a very simple man, and I can only put it in to say it was the worst thing that ever happened in my life. I think that the education is paramount about, any drug, and let's talk about, even alcohol. The socially accepted drug of alcohol is a big killer too, and it's all about knowledge. I mean, I'm not going to stand in a soapbox and say, hey, don't do this and don't do that, but I mean, you've got to be ever vigilant and ever aware, because no one consciously sets out to be an addict, and like myself, I was very headstrong and say, hey, look, I've got everything under control. But believe you me, if you're going to dance with that sort of stuff, be very, very, very aware. And all I can say is base it upon my own experience, that it was the worst thing that ever happened to me.
How did it affect the people around you, people close to you, like your girlfriend or even your family?
Well, I think it's frustrating for anybody to be in a relationship with an addict, because they walk around eggshells. What's it going to be like? What's it going to be like? And
yes.
don't rock the boat. And I think, no one can. It must be very frustrating, because no one can stop for you. It's got to come from within. But luckily enough, my family are still with me. I'm still in a loving relationship, and because they know that there's a good man inside, and luckily enough, everyone in my family is still very much around me. So it's very important to me that you have that sense of connection, and I do keep a sense of connection with that dark time, because it's important to me not to lose perspective of where I was.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because I mean, I saw it in Keith Moon and with Jim Morrison,
Absolutely.
Which had tragic endings.
Very, very sad.
And it's very interesting what you said about when you have all that success and fame, that somehow it's not quite what you expected to be. So what do you feel is missing that makes you go off and do something like that?
Well, I think there's an example. I'm a very, very simple man, and I have to have balance in my life. If the pendulum swings too much to work, then I'm in big trouble. And it's like being an entertainer for me very early on. When I reflect back, it was walking on stage was like putting a coat on, and then you go on and you would entertain, and you would take care of your business or what you do. When your profile becomes more higher and higher, the coat very rarely comes off. It becomes 24 hours a day. It's like when people meet comedians and they're not funny, they say, oh, but you're not funny. It's like they expect you to be maybe funny 24 hours a day, full on. And people have different wants and needs for you, because you're on the TV, because you're on the front covers of magazines. People give you a lot of power. And sometimes that didn't sit nice for me. I'd wished.
Wanna get close to you. Tell me you want me to.
Is it hard for you when you get up every day now to think that you perhaps could be tempted back to the old ways, those dark ways, or you feel so strongly about it, there's no way that could happen?
Well, never say never. I very much keep it in the day, and and it ain't rocket science. It's just today. I choose not to drink and drug. I don't know what will happen tomorrow. I'll just take when it comes. I'll deal with it, and as long as I can have that very simple attitude towards it, it seems to work for me.
Well, that's good. That's good. We're glad you're back with us.
Oh, I'm glad to be back.
Let's go back to your
Sure.
roots, in fact, Marti. I mean, when you grew up in Scotland, and back, was it very difficult for you to get into the music industry, or not?
Well, I think that I was lucky enough to have 3 other guys in the band whose dream and vision was as strong as what mine was. Now, when I left school, the shipyards were closed, so it wasn't as if I could get an apprenticeship. So I saw escapism through my music, and kind of zoned in my craft and started to become very, better as a songwriter at an early age, and thought, what, we could actually maybe do this. And it was very difficult to get gigs just doing your own music, because people, didn't know your songs. But because the songs were good, we started to get a following within Glasgow and within Scotland. We got a manager, and as they say, the rest is history. It's very hard to break into the music industry, but if you're strong and you believe in your dreams, then they can become reality. And it's being strong and believing. I think that's the gift that all us dreamers have. No one's going to tell us any different. This will happen.
Who were your idols then? Who influenced you musically at the time? What were you, 16 when you decided you wanted to be in a band?
When I was 16, I wanted to be in a band, and it was music that was relevant at the time. It was The Clash, it was like Costello, the whole punk thing was happening, and it was, the attitude was anybody could get up there and anybody could do it. Their enthusiasm far weighed out their talent. I'm talking about myself here, but the energy and the angst that was in the music was enough to put me on the stage. I mean, but I love music by Al Green, Sam Cooke. You know, that's where I was coming from. And I think that was very rich in melody and shows in my eclectic listening taste, and somehow kind of morphs its way in my vocal too. My singing's real. I've been blessed enough to have a very distinctive voice, and there's an honesty and a fragility to my vocals that I think people warm to. It's like James Taylor. You know, if I may be as humble as to say that, he has a warmth in his voice that people say, that's real. And people can dream within my music because the space is what you leave out, it's not what you put in. And I'm a great believer that if you leave space, then people can go inside the song and dream with you. And that's a beautiful thing.
When you go on stage now, like you did at the Albert Hall, I saw you at the Albert Hall 2 nights, you packed them out.
Absolutely.
On your own.
Oh.
Did you feel nervous?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt nervous because it's very easy for me to give power to a situation I'm powerless over, you know. And it usually comes from, you know, the less than, will they like me? Will they like the new songs? I don't know. And you know what, once I started to play my new songs and they fell upon their ears, they embraced it with great love and passion, because my love and passion for music has increased tenfold, and they saw that. And before you know it, they were on board singing away.
And then you sang for Elizabeth Taylor at her tribute show at the Albert Hall.
That's right, yeah, I got asked to do that, and I'm always it's always great to be involved in that particular type of night, because it's for such a wonderful cause.
Yeah.
And you know, and
for the AIDS research.
For the AIDS research, you know, and I think, you know, that's my way of contributing it, you know, towards that charity. He asked me to sing a song, that's what I do. I am an entertainer. You know, come along, sing in the Albert Hall, sing some music. It ain't rocket science, and believe you me, it does you're involved in a wonderful charity, and it's all about education again. Yeah.
Did you meet up with the Hollywood legend?
I managed to see her from a distance.
What did you think?
Hey, I mean, I'm such a big Elizabeth Taylor fan.
She's amazing.
She was extremely beautiful, and I think when you see her, and you know, some of these movies from way back in the day, there is such a magic about her face. She doesn't have to say anything, you can just look at her face like that and melt.
And because that night you did a Sinatra song, didn't you?
Oh, well, I'm such a huge Frank Sinatra fan, because when I was growing up, you have access to your parents' record collection, because that's what first turns you on to music. And my father was a huge Frank Sinatra, and still is to this day. And I love the Nelson Riddle arrangements, and so for me, Be a Lady Tonight.
Yeah, that was a terrific version of it.
Oh, and I love that song.
That was great. And now you're going to be in the Live Aid 11, aren't you, this year? Apparently?
Well, I believe that they've approached me, and I'm trying to fit it into my itinerary.
Yeah.
You know, and once again, you know, a great cause, and all I have to do is come along and sing a couple of songs.
Yeah.
Hey, count me in.
Marty, what's it like, the taste of success the second time around?
A lot sweeter.
Feel like?
A lot sweeter.
A lot sweeter?
Yeah, because I think that, you know, I'm a day wiser, and as I said, my wants and my needs are different from they were 10 years ago. This album to me is already a success, you know, because I've managed to make my dreams become reality, not once but twice. And I think, you know, I just enjoy it for what it is, you know, and if, you know, people choose to buy my record, then great. If they don't, well, c'est la vie.
What do you spend your winnings on, or your royalties?
Well, I've been through my collection of Ferraris. You know, I've had all the trappings that success bring me. You know, I've had the big house, the fast boats. You know, I still have the beautiful women in my life, so I thank God for that.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm a very simple man. You know, I love to cook, I love to play golf. You know, I love to spend time with my family. And if I can make good music in between that, life doesn't get any much better than that.
Where have you made your home now? Have you kept your roots in Scotland, or?
No, I'm living in England. With all these Sassenachs. And you know what? They seem to have taken to me. As long as I speak very slowly, I'm okay.